This is what I get for filming videos after midnight. Hello book friends, welcome back to the channel. I'm JJ, the Bearded Bookworm, and today I'm going to be talking about the books that I'm planning to read in March. Now, despite putting up any videos in February other than my TBR, I actually had a very productive month. I read everything that I was planning to read except for 2 books, but I also read a couple books that weren't on the list, so it kind of evened each other out. But it is definitely one of my most read books in a month, despite it being a shorter month. So today I'm just going to talk about the books that I'm planning to read in March, hoping to continue that momentum and just keep reading like crazy. I'm definitely going to be, I say this feel like every video, but I'm actually going to be putting out content this month as well. Alright, so first up is my book for the Wheel of Time / Malazan kind of read along that I'm doing side by side, just switching off a book every other month. This month's book is Dead House Gates by Steven Erikson. This is book 2 in the Malazan series. Fun fact about that, though, is I'm a little under halfway through the first book in the Malazan series. Hit a major roadblock when I think in the second act or the second part, where we kind of switched to a whole nother cast of characters, and one character in particular kind of threw me off, and I just kind of never got the momentum going back again. I actually read a chapter today. And I think going forward, what I'm just going to plan on doing is every day I'm going to read a chapter from this book going into this book until I'm caught up. That's not going to get me through both of these by the end of the month. Maybe I'll catch the bug and want to keep reading more than one chapter on certain days, especially if I'm ahead of schedule with the other books. But it should get me just about all the way through both of these books by the end of the month. So I'm really excited. I am enjoying it once I do start reading the books. It's just, like I said, kind of getting that momentum rolling. And then once I'm into the story, I have no problem. I don't know what's going on in it still, but it's extremely enjoyable. All right, so next up are my Kindle reads. These are the books, as the name suggests, these are the books that are on my Kindle that I have electronically, and I'm reading through those. The first is The Two-Faced Queen by Nick Martel. This is book 2 in the Mercenary King trilogy. This book is coming out in March 23rd in the US. I think March 26th in the UK. It is going into this year, this is one of the books at the top of the list. Honestly, it was the only book I could think of that I was the most excited for, because as soon as I finished reading Kingdom of Liars, The Two-Faced Queen was at the top of the list. I was ready to go. I wanted to know more of what's going on. If you don't know, this series has, the biggest thing is their magic system that has a cost in the form of memory. So the more that you use the magic, the more your memory starts to be lost. So almost think like a dementia or an Alzheimer's type thing. Even up to you may forget how to use like the function of your arm, or forget how to walk, or things like that. Like, it's very, very, very costly and potentially dangerous to use the magic too much. And so it's very fun, wild ride. The main character in the first book is trying to figure out what happened, because he has this like noticeable blank spot in the events that happened that have kind of put his family in the situation. And so he kind of goes undercover to try to figure out what those are. And now in the second book kind of takes place, obviously, after that one. And I just want to see where this story is going to go. The Two-Faced Queen that the book is titled after is a character that was not present in the first book. You're aware of her and you know who she is, but she doesn't show up at all as far as like on the page. We don't necessarily know if she's been working behind the scenes or anything yet, but it does focus on her in this next book. My second Kindle book is A Dead Djinn in Cairo. This is a very short, I think it's considered a short story. It's only 45 pages long. And it's technically the first in this series. It starts with like a short story, then a novella, and then the novel is coming out later this year. I don't know a lot of what that's about, but I do believe it's kind of like this paranormal story that takes place in Cairo, as the name suggests. And each installment kind of builds on that. The last of the Kindle books is The Shadow of the Gods by John Gwynn. This book comes out in May, and I'm very excited. I was able to get an electronic ARC or advanced copy from NetGalley, and this book is another one of those ones going into this year that I was highly anticipating. John Gwynn has another series, or two series, The Faithful and the Fallen, and then Of Blood and Bone. They are kind of like a Celtic Viking or Celtic and Norse inspired story, whereas this one is very much more like Norse Viking inspired. It leans heavily into the gods and kind of the blood of the gods and their descendants. If you have the blood of the gods, you kind of have specific abilities depending on which god you are kind of a descendant from. And so there's kind of this like black market human trafficking kind of element where these people are highly sought after because of their abilities. And there's kind of this like behind the scenes war or conflict going on. I don't know a lot of the details on there. It's been a long time since I heard John explain the concept for the story. It's been almost, probably 6 to 9 months. But I've had my eye on this book since I heard about it. It sounds absolutely awesome. I'm so excited to read it. It's actually my current read right now. Next is my books that I have actually a physical copy of that I'm going to be reading. The first of which is Skyward Inn by Aaliyah Whiteley. This book is a kind of a sci-fi, it is a sci-fi book where this kind of intergalactic conflict, this war has been going on for a long time. The kind of main two characters are these innkeepers. I just spent 5 minutes that I'm going to cut. I just got like 5 minutes of me trying to explain this without actually reading the back, because the blurb or the description on the back is vague enough to where me trying to explain by being vague of the vague description really kind of muddles and confuses things. So I'm just going to read the back. That way you know what I know about this book. Skyward Inn, within the high walls of the Western Protectorate, is a place of safety where people come together to tell stories of the time before the war with Keita. But safety from what? Keita surrendered without complaint when Earth invaded. Innkeepers Jem and Isley, veterans from either side, have regrets but few scars. Their peace is disturbed when a visitor known to Isley comes to the inn asking for help, bringing reminders of an unnerving past and triggering an uncertain future. Did humanity really win the war? So, yeah, that's what I know about the book. This book actually comes out March 16th. Big thanks to Solaris or Rebellion Press, Rebellion Publications, and Hannah specifically. She's the one that sent this to me. I'm super excited. Definitely going to be reading this and getting a review up before the book comes out. That way y'all can know my thoughts on it and know whether or not you should pick it up. The next book is a book that has been on my list for a long time. I've actually had the Kindle version for over a year, and I've tried to read from my phone, and I've talked about this before, where reading ebooks on my phone does not work for me. But the formatting or whatever for a Kindle, like the size and whatnot, makes it easier for me to read. But I had attempted to read this book a bunch of times on my phone. It wasn't working out. And now that I'm finally getting to it, a lot of people have actually already started reading this book. And so now I'm kind of behind the game, so to speak, on this book. But that book is All Systems Red. This is book one of Murderbot, or the Murderbot Diaries. Our main character is Murderbot. Murderbot is like a bodyguard type robot that through whatever means has been able to override her governing chip, and now is able to kind of think freely, make their own choices, kind of act outside of their programming. From what I know, it's a very sarcastic personality, and although it's does its job and goes out and protects people, really all it wants to do is stay at home, sit on the couch, and just veg out on crappy TV. So really excited. I think a lot of people have said that this has kind of been overhyped at this point because everybody talks about how good it is. I've had my expectations tempered a little bit, but I'm super excited because it feels like it's right up my alley. Any shows, movies, books that have that like sarcastic robot that honestly steals the show. They're always my favorite characters, and so I feel like that's what this entire series is about a character like that. All right, so the last of the physical copies of books that I'm reading is Trail of Lightning by Rebecca Rohnhorse. This book, Victoria, my wife, she actually is the one that purchased it for herself. To my knowledge, she hasn't read it yet. But I didn't know anything about it, and just looking on the cover, I was like, okay, cool. Like, the cover's really cool, but I didn't know what it was about. This book is like an alternate history, like alternate American history, where like Native Americans have taken back their lands for survival. The main character is a monster hunter. Comes from kind of that monster hunting family. And I guess for whatever reason, I've been on this like urban fantasy kind of monster hunting kick between this, Dresden Files, Paternus. I don't know what it is, but I apparently really love those types of books because I love that monsters kind of in the modern time and dealing with that kind of type of story. Other than that, I don't know a ton about this book as far as the storyline and things like that. Other than it's about monster hunting. I know they do have powers. The monster hunters do. But I mean, look at that cover. This cover, if the light catches it just right, it catches that lightning, and it's pretty awesome. So, all right. So now here's the audiobooks. I've recently changed jobs. I deliver pizzas at night. And because of that, I get a lot of extra time to listen to audiobooks, which is something I've been missing because that's what I did before I was working at the bank. And now that I am, back to delivering pizza, I have that extra time and I'm loving it. So I have a lot more audiobooks kind of on my TBR just because of my circumstances now. The first book that I am reading is actually my current listen/read is Gideon the Ninth by Tamsin Muir. This book is wild. Like I said, I'm listening to it already. It's the night of the 2nd when I'm filming this. So I'm 2 days in. But it is about space necromancers. And I like space and I like necromancy, like if I ever got to where I was playing as a character in like D&D or something like that, I love like the concept of necromancy and stuff like that in general. Let that say of what it will about me. But so far, Gideon is the most sarcastic, irreverent, snarky, smartass of a character I think I've ever read. I love Gideon. I am not that way myself. That's not my personality. However, I dream to be able to be as quick and witty and sarcastic effectively as Gideon is, because it's amazing. Gideon does not actually have any necromantic powers. Through a bunch of series, she ends up kind of being this almost like a bodyguard, kind of like the physical half of her necromancer partner. That's kind of like a antagonistic relationship, to say the least. And basically, the story kind of goes from there, where she's having to team up and kind of work with this person that she hates, and kind of surviving through this kind of almost like royal conference that she was never trained for. She kind of got thrown into the situation, and so she's having to adjust and kind of downplay, and there's a lot of like house politics and things like that. It's a super great story. Like I'm loving it so far. The next audiobook that I'm listening to is Age of Swords by Michael J. Sullivan. This is book 2 in the Legends of the First Empire series. Age of Myth, the first book in the series, I was actually surprised at how much I enjoyed it. I absolutely loved it. It's takes place in like this like I don't want to say prehistoric, but like a Bronze Age society, and kind of these beings that they worship as gods. As they're kind of going through, they're kind of finding out that what they've believed through however long may not actually be the case, and vice versa. What the god people believe of themselves and kind of the world and everything like that may not be how it is. The first book has this little section from the author where he kind of explains where he's coming from with this series. He wrote the Rhaenyra books, which are kind of like a more, I'm gonna say, traditional fantasy time frame. Kind of like your classic fantasy era, so to speak. And there's a lot of like legends and things like that. These historical figures, gods, everything like that that's mentioned in that series. And so this is kind of like a prequel series that kind of sets the record straight on what's mentioned and believed, and secrets that are uncovered in the Rhaenyra books. And this is kind of like, here's what actually happened through all those times of all these figures that everybody knows and worships. Needless to say, I love the first book. I'm super excited for the second book. I've seen quite a few people say that this is actually their favorite book in the series. And I'm just excited. I don't know if there's a single character that I didn't fall in love with in this book, other than the bad guys. All of the good guys, I'm very invested in seeing where their story goes going forward. So I've been trying to keep away from read-alongs just in general, because all of the ones that I've followed thus far, I almost always get off track, and then I just never stick with it. And so going into this year, I was kind of like, okay, I'm just going to do my own thing, kind of stay away from read-alongs, readathons, everything like that. And I am such a sucker for when somebody creates a read-along and is super passionate and excited about a series. And I got hyped for it. And Chris over at the Bookish Cauldron created a read along for a series that I have never heard of before. I think it's the Scala series. It's about gay spies in like a fantasy setting. And he said something else, but it's been a long time since I watched this video. But that by itself has intrigued me, and I am very excited. So I'm reading the first book in that series, Luck in the Shadows. I'm going to link his channel down below. He's hosting this read along now, kind of with the co-host with Andy from Andy Smith. And they're going to be doing live streams about the book after it's been read and everything like that. So, like I said, I've been trying to focus on kind of doing my own thing as far as like not following a bunch of read-alongs and things like that. However, Angela over at Literature Science Alliance created a March Madness bracket system for kind of like a March Madness themed read-along or readathon. And basically it's very customizable to fit whatever you need to do. There's not necessarily prompts or anything like that, but you take your TBR, the books that you can reasonably read that month, put them into a bracket, kind of guess which books you think you will like the best in a March Madness type bracket. And so I've participated as well. I cut out the Malazan books as well as A Dead Gin in Cairo. The Malazan books because, like I said in the beginning, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get through all of them. And then A Dead Gin in Cairo almost felt unfair because it is only 45 pages versus these novel length books, and I needed to get down to 8 selections. So with that, here's my bracket. I randomized, basically just took my list 1 through 8, and then just random number generator. Started at the top left, worked my way down, then go to the other side and work my way down, and just took each book out and just keep re-rolling to figure out where each book is going to be. So, top left we have Age of Swords versus All Systems Red. Bottom left we have Luck in the Shadows versus Skyward Inn. Top left we have the Two-Faced Queen versus the Shadow of the Gods. And the bottom right we have Trail of Lightning versus Gideon the Ninth. And as you can see, here are my picks. I do believe Age of Swords will beat All Systems Red, and Luck in the Shadows will beat Skyward Inn. This side of the bracket was actually really hard because most of these I don't know a ton about, so I didn't have a good guess on which one I was going to think was going to win. Then, staying on the left side, we have Age of Swords versus Luck in the Shadows. I picked Luck in the Shadows to win, just because I don't know what to expect with that, so that's kind of my wild card pick, because I suspect that I'm going to fall in love with that book and that series, and so I'm taking it to the finals. Then on the other side, we've got the Two-Faced Queen versus the Shadow of the Gods. The Shadow of the Gods, because I've read John Gwynn before. I've also read Nick Martel before. But I am so excited about the Shadow of the Gods that I think this one's going to take it all the way to the finals. And then the bottom right, I think Trail of Lightning is going to beat out Gideon the Ninth. I've already started Gideon the Ninth at the time that I made the bracket. But I'm guessing Trail of Lightning is going to win because I love a good Monster Hunter story. I've heard nothing but good things about this series. And so that takes us to the finals. Luck in the Shadows versus the Shadow of the Gods. It could be very close, but I do think Shadow of the Gods is going to pull it off and win this month. But I will check in at the end of the month in the wrap up and kind of go over, compare this bracket versus the actual results. So there you have it. Those are my plans for March. What about you? What are you planning to read this month? What else has you excited in March? My Discord link is down below. If you're reading any of these books and you want to talk to me about them, go ahead and hit me up in my Discord server, or shoot me a message on any of the social media platforms. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you have not already. Once again, I'm JJ the Bearded Bookworm. I'll see you next time.